Oh boy. Oh boy, what do we got here? Oh boy. Hey guys, I know I share a lot of art videos, but another thing I'm very passionate about is lure making. I love making my own soft plastic baits and then taking them out there and testing them out and seeing what kind of fish I can catch. That's just a hobby of mine, and there's no more rewarding thing than in the fishing world to me than going out with your own bait and catching your own fish with it. And most of the time you'll be surprised you catch more fish with your own custom baits than something that you get at the store. So check it out. I'm going to make a video here about brand new custom bait I'm making. Never tried it, and this is right on the spot, making it right in front of the camera. And then I'm going to pour some at the end and take them out fishing, and we'll see what we can catch. So stick with me. Hope you enjoy it. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do is I need to grab some popsicle sticks. You know, there's different sizes here. For the 3-inch, I use the bigger for the body. But I think what I'm going to do is I will use the bigger one. I'm going to trace out with a pencil kind of the outline that I want on this, and I'm going to use the round end of this popsicle stick as the tail, and I'll show you here just in a second. So get my pencil here. So I definitely want to go a little bit smaller than the swim bait I have now, so I have a variety of sizes. I already have some 4s, 5s. I think I have a 7-inch swim bait. I think that's the one I've musky fish with a little bit. So I want it somewhere, I'm not measuring it out perfectly, but I think I'm going to go out to maybe about in there. So I want to keep the back flat, and you'll see here in a little bit why. But I'm just going to go through and just do a real rough sketch. But so with a swim bait, you want to have a bulkier body and then come down in. You want this to be a little on the narrower side, make it a little bit smaller, because we're going to go through with Sculpey, and we're actually going to build that up a little bit. So you don't want to get it too bulky where in the end result it's going to be a 3-inch swim bait anyway, and it's going to be too bulky for what you're going to use it for. So we're gonna just experiment here a little bit. I think I might bulk up the body a little bit or extend it a little bit. So I'm gonna bring it out to like somewhere out in here, and then instead of making a tail on this exact piece, I'm going to go where I have it marked, and I'm just going to cut it right there. Actually, with a swim bait, you want to slightly angle it right here, just barely angle it a little bit, because if you have an angle on that tail, it's going to have a little bit heavier action. You're going to get a lot more vibrations in the water and actually make it look like it's a swimming minnow. So with that said, I'm going to go here, I'm going to grab a quick knife, and essentially I'm just going to go through and lightly score this until it breaks. It's a popsicle stick, so there's nothing to it. Score it a few times and break it and it'll come right off. I probably should have something on this table, but this countertop, but it really doesn't matter because it's an old one. So there's my first piece. And then I'm just going to slightly go over here and trace out what I have drawn here. But you have to be super careful. Make sure you have a sharp knife, because popsicle sticks tend to splinter out. And so you're going to, if you don't do it right, you're going to have to redo it, because it'll splinter through the body and you're going to lose half of it. So just be really careful with it. And just as you're going through this whole process, just be really gentle with the whole thing, because it is fragile. I'm not sure why I picked such a humid day to do this. It is so hot outside. But I do want to get this done before we go on a little fishing trip. or family trip with some water close by, so I definitely want to do something fun here. Chase some smallmouth bass around a little bit. Smallmouth are my favorite, so I'll never miss an opportunity if I can help it. So that's the basic body shape that I'm going to go with. Let's see. I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to take, what I'm going to do is just go ahead and cut off a little piece of the end of a smaller popsicle stick here. I'm going to take it a little bit long because we're going to sand this and cut it down anyway. Snap that right off. Now we can see here that we're going to have a little bit of a tail. Now that's way too long. It's going to want to be more like that, but it's a good starting point. We don't want to get too crazy with it. So I'm going to go ahead and just mentally draw a line there and put my fingernail where I want it to be, and I'm going to cut it about that same distance. That might not be perfect, but it'll at least give me an idea where I'm at. And make sure you use precaution whenever you're cutting with a sharp knife like this. Let's see. Okay, pliers here. Okay. And I'm going to keep a piece of sandpaper with me here. I'm just going to smooth out some of these little splinters that come off of there as we go. Okay, so now we have a little tail. But what I want to do is taper that tail on both sides, because some people make it this way. I don't prefer it to have the squared sides like this. I kind of want to have it beveled down on each side. So I'm going to go through and mark this off with this pencil exactly where I want it to be, kind of line it up. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. Okay, and I'm just going to kind of draw a little line and try to make the other line just as even. Okay, and I'm going to just score this off. Okay, here's one piece. Get the other. I just want to go in, snap that off. That wasn't really great, but it works. And then I'm gonna, see I got all these rough edges on the side, I'm gonna go through, sand that down a little bit. And I'm just rounding those edges on that tail a little bit. Get rid of that. Okay, so we have a body, we have a tail. And I think it's going to actually work out really nicely. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get my bag of Sculpey, and it doesn't matter what color you get. I just do white just because it's simple. And I just get a bulk pack of it. So what you want to do is go on here, cover this whole thing with Sculpey thinly. You don't want to get too crazy, and try to make it as symmetrical on both sides as you can, because if you get too much weight on one side, this thing's going to swim to one side. So you definitely have to be aware of what you're doing here, and don't make it too thin, because you actually get where this popsicle stick will come through on the sides. So what we're going to do is actually take this, build this up, and then we're going to bake it. I have a little toaster oven here, but typically I will work in the oven in the house here, but for the sake of space, I'm just going to do it out here, even though it's a lot cooler in the house. Okay, so just continuing to build this, just adding a little bit at a time. Trying to maintain that basic shape I have. Now this is definitely going to bulk up quite a bit as we go. And that is perfectly fine. You kind of just have to push it into it until it starts to stick to the wood. It's so warm out. Usually this doesn't stick to me quite as much, but we're touching 90s. So this is very melty and it's not wanting to be quite as easy to work with. Alrighty, in the meantime, I've already made larger flukes, but I'm going to make a couple smaller flukes for some smallmouth in the river. So I'm going to make that while I make this swim bait too. So here we go. Alrighty, so I now have two different beginnings. We got the swim bait version with no tail, and I have kind of a twitch bait. And it has no tail too. So we'll start from here. I'm going to sand the heck out of these things because they're really rough, considering that the Sculpey was very, very soft because it's so hot. Which I don't have a clue what I'm doing as far as the heat goes. I don't know what I'm thinking. So anyway, I'm going to sit here, I'm going to sand these down really nice and smooth, and then I'm going to add these tails, and then what I need to do is attach the tails and then add the Sculpey on top of that, so the whole thing is all one cohesive unit. So here we go. Okay, now I have both of these sanded down enough. I mean, this is just kind of give you guys an idea how this works, but I have it sanded down enough where I think I'm going to go ahead and put these tails on. And so I just need a little bit of super glue, and these are going to be my split tails for this little guy here. So I'm going to cut these off, glue these on here, and take the little tail that I had already cut out for the swim bait, put it on there, and then I'm going to attach just a little bit more of the Sculpey in those little cracks, smooth that out, put it in the oven, and then we're going to have a complete bait, or two baits. So this is going to be a lot of fun. So here goes. So for this little twitch bait here, I am going to just kind of measure out how big this tail, how big I want the tail. So I'm going to go with that length there. Just rocking that back and forth, break that off, and yeah, I like that a lot. Don't need that piece. And I'm going to do the same with this one. Break it off about where I want it. Nice. Okay, so I'm going to, oops, you are not sandpaper. It's a little on the small side, but I think I'm gonna just make it work. So I'm gonna take a dab of glue on the end of this body, and I'm just gonna attach it right here on the end and wiggle it down as far as I can. Okay, wow, that really took quick. So now you've got at least the start of a tail here. And you want to kind of eyeball it and look down that body just to make sure. This was probably better if you put it on its back. And just see how close to the top that is. So I don't know if you can see that or not, you know. But alright, so day 2, I had to leave yesterday. I had a concert to go to, so here I am. Another really hot day here in the garage, but I want to get this done and show you kind of what we're doing here. So I let everything dry. I had just put the super glue on the back, so I've got this little fluke tail, which I need to adjust a lot on this because if you look at it, it's only on one side, so I'm going to have to sand it down pretty good and get it going. Now the swim bait is looking alright as far as the tail goes. I just need to build it up with some Sculpey. So I'm going to do a little bit of tweaking on here, see what I can come up with. Alright, so I think I'm going to start with trying to sand this tail on this fluke. I got it shaved down a little bit. I don't know if you can see that or not. I'll put it up against my shirt here. So it's kind of flat right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build up the one side a little bit heavier and then try to even it out. It's just really tricky trying to get something like that, but that's the fun about doing a DIY thing on your own instead of just buying like some pre-made molds. So okay, I'm going to go with this. I'm just going to get some Sculpey out here, and I won't have to knead it very far because it is very, very hot outside. And I might have to actually go inside like I did before and use the refrigerator to cool this down so I can actually work with it. But we're going to try it. Kind of separated. So I'm going to leave it at that as far as baking it again. It's fairly smooth there. It's not perfect, obviously, but for the sake of what I'm doing, I think it's going to be alright. So I'm going to save that one, I'm just going to go in. I'm going to build up a little bit more right here on the face of, or right at the base of this paddle tail. So I'm going to build this up a little bit and just kind of taper it a little bit so when the water hits it, it causes that to vibrate. So real quick. Okay, that's actually where I think I'm going to leave it. I'm going to bake it where it's at, and I'm just going to put it in my toaster oven here for a few minutes. It says 15 minutes for every 1/4 inch thick of this Sculpey, so I'll put it in there for maybe 5-10 minutes. You'll know when it's done, and then we'll go from there. I'll take it out and I'll sand it down, and we'll go to the next step. Alright, we just let this all cool down. I'm going to take some sandpaper to it and just fix up. There's a lot of little burrs and stuff here on the tail. I don't know if it's focused on me or not, but and the same applies to the Swimbait. So I do some work here. Okay, so something I'm realizing on this thing is I'm looking for this ridge on the back. I need as much contact on the bottom here, so there's a whole area to open pour your Plastisol in. If you don't, there's a chance we're not going to get it to hit this tail area. So I'm going to have to actually, I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's a little bit of a gap, and I'm going to have to build in this little gap by this tail here so it's more flush. So we're going to put more Sculpey down in here on this side here, fix up any other imperfections. I might as well go a little more in detail than I was first expecting, and that's fine. So I just want to make sure that this mold turns out right. So here we go. Okay, so I finally got both these lures kind of where I want them. I'm not going to go up any further. I did end up sanding them a little further than I said I was going to. The perfectionist part of me, the artist part of me, can't deal with having an unfinished lure. So anyway, I got them fairly good now. So I'm going to show you a little tip that I kind of figured out. Maybe other people are doing this too. But you know, you see all these lures at the store, and this part doesn't even matter because this doesn't affect the fishing part. This is more for the fisherman or for your peace of mind. But what I do is, if you got a wife, girlfriend, whatever, steal one of these up for you. Little bottle of nail polish, or asking is probably better. Ask for one maybe your wife doesn't use anymore, just an old color she doesn't like, or whatever. It doesn't matter. Go grab one and paint these up all the way across, paint them all the way over, and they're actually going to get a really nice shine on them. So whenever you go in and pour these, you're going to come out with really shiny lures, really pretty looking lures. Other than if you didn't do that, you'd have kind of roughish. Your lures would have how do I describe it? Little burrs maybe in it. So, for example, this is one of the prototypes that I made with that same mold. I don't know if you can really see the shine on it, but it's a very, very shiny lure because I did that. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. It doesn't matter what color, by the way. Not sure if you can see that or not, but they already have a nice shine on them. That'll cover up some of the little areas that are there might be an imperfection or whatnot. So you'll eventually get a really, really shiny lure, but you want to let this dry, flip it over, do the other side, and then go over the whole thing again. At least that's how I want to do it. And it really turns out nice. So I'm going to turn the camera off for a little bit, and I'm going to show you the final product once this is all done, and then we'll go over the mold making process. So